Okay, so in this video I'm just going to show you how to get from each one. So I'm going to go back and forth. So I'm going to start with fractions into decimals into percentages, but also the reverse later. And I'm going to show you different ways of doing it because sometimes there is more than one way. So you can then pick which one is easier for you. But yeah, that's absolutely your decision of which one you want to do. So we're going to start with fractions into decimals. So there are two ways of doing this. So with the half I'm going to show you one way, and with the 3/4 I'll show you another way. Now this doesn't always work, the method I'm going to use now, because it depends on whether the number on the bottom, so the denominator, goes into 100. Okay, so I'm going to find what fraction 1/2 is equivalent to, so that the denominator or the bottom number is 100. So I think, what would I have to multiply 2 by to get to 100, which would be 50, which means I also need to times the top or the numerator by 50 as well, which I get as 50 over 100. Okay, now because it's out of 100, that means it's going to be 0 point and then 50. Okay, so you would have done this in primary school, would have thought. So these are the tenths, and then the hundredths, and so on. Okay, so we've got 50 there. So the number that goes after the decimal will be 50. Okay, now the 0 actually doesn't really make a difference, as in it doesn't help us. So you could actually also write it as 0.5 if you wanted. Okay, they are still the same amount because the 0 doesn't make the 5 any bigger. Okay, so then to get from a decimal into a percentage, the only method is that you always multiply it by 100. Okay, so 0.50 times by 100 or times by 10 would give you 5, and then times by 10 again would give you 50. So this is 50%. Okay, so I'm going to do a different method for this one. So this method will work for any fraction, okay? Doesn't matter what the number is as the denominator. So what we're going to do is we're going to use bus stop method. Okay, the number that goes underneath the bus stop is the number on the top, so that goes under bus stop. Okay, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a couple of zeros afterwards. Now the reason why I do that is because 4 doesn't go into 3, which is why it's currently a fraction as it is already. So I need some extra zeros because the answer I'm going to get is going to be a decimal that is less than 1. Okay, the number that goes on the bottom, so the denominator, that number goes at the front. Okay, the front. And then we just use bus stop. So does 4 go into 3? No, it doesn't. So we put a 0 above it. Now the decimal places can stay in line. So if 4 doesn't go into 3, that means that there is still 3 left over. So I carry that on to the next 0. Then we see how many 4s go into 30, which is 7. Because 4 times 7 gives me 28. But I still want 30, so I need 2 more to make the 30. So I carry 2 on to the next 0. Okay, then I see how many 40s go into 20, which is exactly 5, because 4 times 5 gives you 20. So this fraction is the same as 0.75. Okay, so that's the alternative way, which is the way that I always use. Okay, and then to get from a decimal to a percentage, we multiply by 100. So multiplying by 10 would give you 7.5, multiply by 10 again would give you 75. Okay, I'm just going to do one more actually because I can probably fit another one in. So let's go for 3/8. So this method is really good for these ones because 8 doesn't go into 100 exactly. Okay, so we can't use the method at the top. So we're going to have to use the bus stop. So again, the number at the top is the one that goes underneath the bus stop. So 3 point, and I always add 2 zeros to start off with, but you might need to add some more later on, okay? But 2 is enough to begin with. And the number at the front is the number that is on the bottom or the denominator, which is 8. So we start off with, does 8 go into 3? No, it doesn't. So I'm going to add a 0. Remember, the decimal places can stay in line. So because 8 doesn't go into 3, the 3 needs to be carried on to the next 0 in line. Then we see how many 8s go into 30, which is 3. Because 8 times 3 gives me 24. But 24, we want 30, so it means I need 6 more to get to my 30. So that carries on to the next 0. Then we see how many 8s go into 60, which is 7, because 8 times 7 gives me 56. But again, 56 isn't my 60, so there is going to be stuff left over. So because I now know there's something left over, I'm going to add an extra 0 there. So I've got 56 at the moment because 7 times 8 gives you 56. I want 60, so that means there must be 4 left over. Then we see how many 8s that go into 40, which is exactly 5. Okay, so 3 eighths is the same as 0.375. So then to make it into a percentage, we multiply it by 100. So multiplied by 10 is 3.75, times by 10 again will be 37.5. And yes, you can have decimals as percentages. Okay, so that's the first way. We're now then going to go the opposite way. So percentages into decimals, very similar to the one above. They're nice and easy. We just divide by 100. Okay. So if you struggle to just do dividing by 100, divide by 10 first and then divide that answer by 10 again. So 30 divided by 10 is 3, and then 3 divided by 10 would be 0.3. Okay. So to make it into a fractions, this is where the tenths come in. So this is my tenths column. Okay, I don't have any hundredths or anything, that will be the next one. We will have that later. But because the 3 is in the tenths column and there isn't anything after that, this is the same as 3 out of 10. And it's as easy as that. So if you're just starting off, we'll go through. First thing is just to keep writing the titles above the numbers, and then whatever one the number reaches, that is the number that you need to have at the bottom. Okay, so for the next one again, percentage into a decimal, divide by 100. So 25 divided by 10 would be 2.5, divided by 10 again is 0.25. Okay, so the 2 is in my tenths column, but the 5 is in the next one, which is our hundredths column. Hundredths. So that means it's going to be 25 out of, because it's in the hundredths, it'll be out of 100. Okay, then you can simplify it afterwards as well, because they do want you to try and simplify it. So looking at both of those, they can both divide by 5. So 25 divided by 5 is 5, 100 divided by 5 is 20. They can still be divided by 5 again. So 5 divided by 5 is 1, 20 divided by 5 is 4. So that's the same as 1/4. Okay. And the next one, divide by 100. So 2 divided by 10 would be 0.2, divided by 10 again would be 0.02. 0.02. Okay, you can always check afterwards, so you move the numbers to the 2 places, so 1, 2. Okay, again, label the title, so you've got the tenths and you've got the hundredths. So you've only got 2 there, so it'd be 2. Out of, the 2's in the hundredths column, so it'd be out of 100, which you can then simplify after. 1 out of 50. Okay, I'm just going to just do one more. Let's go for 12.5. So first thing, to make it into a decimal, we divide by 100. So 1, 2, so it's going to be 0.125. So we've got the 1 is in the tenths column, the 2 is in the hundredths column. Okay, but we've actually still got another 5 after that, so that's in the thousands. Okay, so it's going to be 125 out of 1,000. Okay, so it just keeps going. So if you had 4 numbers here, it will be out of 10,000, so 1 and then 4 noughts. Okay, and this does simplify to 1/8, okay, by just continuously dividing by 5.